Hello, and welcome to the final session of Politics of Southeast Europe. In the final session, what I'm supposed to do is go over some of the things that we tried to do in the seminar. So what is it we were trying to do in the seminar? We could say formally, drawing from the syllabus, that the course had the following four objectives, and that is to provide students with knowledge and with understanding, allowing them to, first, evaluate policies both in the region and policies directed toward the region of Southeast Europe. Second, to analyze contemporary issues and controversies involving Southeast Europe. Third, to apply theoretical models from a variety of developments in social science to understanding developments in Southeast Europe. And fourth, to address scholarly controversies involving the wars of succession in the 1990s, the regimes that participated in them, their causes, their consequences, and the political and social path that the societies in the region have taken since then. It also says in the syllabus that along the way, students should develop their skills in working with academic literature, in developing critical assessments of research, and in organizing and presenting their work in an engaging manner. And this is perhaps a bit narrow. These are the sorts of requirements that are fairly standard for a university course. I think we did all of those things. We explored policies, we evaluated them, we tried to look at facts and issues using a variety of perspectives and methodologies. We got into some of the academic debates involving the region, but maybe I can say a bit more. The selection of readings, especially for those of you who went beyond the required and recommended readings and into greater depth on the topics, for example, the ones that you presented on, was meant to open horizons for you. In particular, it was meant to offer a way for people to shift from a conventionally political approach to political issues, and to look at them especially from a variety of perspectives, from perspectives of other social sciences, including sociology, anthropology, history, economics, and so on. The purpose of this may sound formalistic, but it's not merely formalistic. There are a lot of formalistic observers of different types of contemporary politics in the world. We could probably say that the whole field of political analysis is becoming more formalistic and less engaged because of a whole variety of different interests and pressures. Think about most of the media commentary you hear about ongoing events anywhere in the world. If you're a close follower of media, you are likely to have recognized some of the following habits in media commentary. First, a tendency to take some categories that are fundamentally contested, categories like democracy, Europe, reconciliation, and so on, as given, and as not being in need of analysis or discussion. Second, a tendency to assume that what is said is what is meant and that it is benign, and to overlook effects that are unintended. Third, a tendency to concentrate attention away from the society, away from the everyday lives of people, and instead toward a small number of people occupying the top ranks of political institutions. Further, a tendency to accept the word "the" unquestioningly, and to talk in terms of absolutist categories, particularly ethnic categories, the Serbs, the Croats, the Albanians, and so on. And finally, what we might call a sort of surreptitious Fukuyamism and the unconscious promotion of a deeply ideologized master narrative of history, the idea that we are inevitably headed somewhere and that we can move either backward or forward only along this path. So why are these tendencies a problem? Consider this. One of the things that we as specialists are often asked to do, although probably we should not be asked to do this, is to make predictions. And most of the predictions that specialists make in response to this type of request turn out to be wrong. This is not surprising. We can't predict the future, neither can anybody else. But why are we wrong so often? I mean, some of it may have to do with the impossible nature of the question. But part of it may have to do with the way that answers are assembled. Too narrow and too narrowly concentrated a range of sources means answers that tend toward an assumption that conditions will remain the same. If we want to talk about wrong predictions, wars are not the only things that experts failed to predict. They're pretty bad at predicting peace, and they're pretty bad at predicting democracy. Look at the ways that the protests in Plena in Bosnia in 2014 took people by surprise. The defeat of ruling parties in recent municipal elections in Bosnia, for example. The great anthropologist Ivan Čolović liked to quote a line from a science fiction writer, from the science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. And this is the line. The line is, "The sane man does not know that everything is possible." He was using it trying to explain the behavior of sociopathic people of various types, criminals, during the period of violence in the 1990s in the former Yugoslavia. Only they knew what could happen to what looked like peaceful and relatively prosperous communities, and this is partly because they were the people who made it happen. To the degree that they were insane, as the quotation would have it, that gave them insight and an advantage over people. The sentence in this quotation from Philip Dick comes, by the way, from an essay that he wrote in 1964 about psychedelic drugs. Now, short of becoming criminals or consumers of psychedelic drugs ourselves, how do we get access to this kind of advantage? I think the goal of this is not some kind of mystical power, but insight and above beyond what is available to your standard media or political party or think tank or academic specialist. And basically what it requires is having good vision, good depth vision, and good peripheral vision. This takes engagement and it takes time. It means having enough familiarity with the environment that you are looking at, that you are able to sense in it possible resonances, and to have an idea about what is likely to take root and what is not likely to take root. And it means looking broadly enough so that you have an idea about this political top layer that everybody else concentrates on. If it is representative, what is it representing? Where does the thing that it is representing originate from? And what is it competing with? What is changing and how quickly? And what is changing more quickly or slowly than the thing that you are looking at? What do the anthropologists, to use an example, but really anybody engaged with a different part of public life, know that the politicians don't know? If you have a sense of these things, then you have insight that is better than your favorite paper's editorial page or your favorite non-governmental organization's periodic report. Now, at this point, I'm supposed to offer some kind of conclusions from the semester, something that we have demonstrated during this term, or some kind of parting advice. I don't have a big polemical point to prove, so I'm reasonably sure that I didn't prove one. I hope I might have demonstrated some patterns that could be useful to you as you continue to develop your thinking. What I would hope some of these patterns would be this. First, look below the surface. The important things that are happening are almost never happening among people at the top layer of political structures. If it is happening in the state, it's happening at the third or the fourth layer of official life. Most of the public and most of the experts will not have very much of a sense of it. Second, look for diversity. If you think that the Serbs or the Albanians or the Bosnians or whatever are like this or like that, then you will be proved wrong by every social or political change that happens. Have a sense of the kind of competitions going on in the social environment, of which whoever is exercising power at the moment represents a fraction, temporarily holding more influence than another group. Third, look into the past. Not to see how some ancient factor fixed everything into a particular place forever or made something inevitable, but to see how some recent and ongoing changes have created new arrangements, new insecurities, new tensions, new fears, new conflicts, new possibilities. The answer to the question of why things are the way they are today is probably not in what some press spokesperson said yesterday or what some half-fictional emperor did 1,000 years ago, but in things that actually affect the ways in which people live. Fourth, look at how people live and see whether there are differences between the way that people live and the way that people are represented. It's those differences that are going to give you the information that you need to understand a social environment. And finally, look at the research. Look especially at research that is close to the site of production of the things that it is describing. It can provide ways of answering questions that a lot of outside observers will not even think to ask. Questions like, rather than declaring the members of this group were all nationalist or some formula that will be familiar to you from a lot of popular reading, ask what are the forces contributing to support for the national movements. I would have one final message for you, and that's this. Having completed a seminar in this area, in this field, and probably the degree here at this institution, there is a very good likelihood that many of you, or most of you, will before too long find yourselves in the position of the people whose answers to the questions people ask about the region you have been reading as study material. That is, you'll be on the reading lists. With any luck, having gone through the reading list, you'll have developed enough familiarity and enough insight to recognize which are the good ones and which are the less good ones. Try to be more like the good ones. So this is my equivocal message for you at the end of the term. I hope that you've learned something, not only about the region and some things that will help you to share some of the passion that a lot of us have for the region, but also something about critical approaches and the need for diversity. I understand that you'll have a lot of questions and you'll have a lot of responses yourself, and I'll look forward to discussing those with you in the seminar.